This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Monday, November 6th, 2023. I'm Kate Sharon. Of Indiana's 92 counties, federal data shows 53 have some form of primary care shortage. 70% of communities reported access to care was a top community need, and nearly all counties falling into those deserts are considered rural or partially rural. Rural Hoosiers face a number of barriers to adequate health care, forcing them to likely drive farther, maneuver around a large-scale provider shortage, and use internet services unavailable to them, as well as deal with universal issues, such as cost and insurance coverage. Lack of access can often equate to a lack of care, when roadblocks to preventative and primary care are too severe. Catherine Pope, an IU School Public Health project manager, researcher, and producer of a related report.
So there's just not enough primary care physicians or pediatricians for all the clients that are available, let alone anything like mental health care providers. There's just a huge shortage of mental health care in rural areas.
When faced with those types of barriers, communities often find themselves comparatively in worse health with higher mortality rates and a lower quality of life. Improving access to care is a top priority in a previous state health improvement plan, which says, quote, "It is evident that not all Hoosiers have the same opportunities to be healthy. In a state-collected community health assessment, the issue is one of the top mentioned problems, along with the likes of mental and behavioral health, substance use disorders, obesity, and heart disease." Indiana sits in the lower half of U.S. News and World Report rankings when it comes to healthcare, with an overall score of number 43. Breaking it down further, the Hoosier State sits at number 41 in public health, number 41 in healthcare quality, and number 39 in healthcare access. Local students will have more opportunities for scholarships and credits after a University of Evansville and Evansville-Vanderburgh School Corporation partnership. High school students can enroll in a health sciences or education program and are eligible for a renewable $25,000 merit scholarship if they complete their program and are admitted to UE. The credits are transferable. The university said the programs will set up students for a 3-year university program in elementary education, secondary education, nursing, or exercise science, or direct entry into physical therapy, athletic training, or physician assistant science program. Curtis Hill, now 5 years removed from a groping scandal that derailed his political ambitions, is working to rehabilitate his image as he revs up his campaign for the Republican nomination for governor. Given his unceremonious exit from office, Hill might seem like a long shot for the state's highest elected office, but in a 5-way race, he might need only a little more than 20% of the vote in the May primary election to win the GOP nomination. To some political observers, that gives him a shot. What limited public polling is available suggests that Hill would do no better than Crouch or Braun against Jennifer McCormick, the likely Democratic nominee in the governor's race, according to poll numbers commissioned by the McCormick campaign. Hill might not have the campaign war chest of an entrepreneur like Brad Chambers or the establishment backing of a U.S. senator, but the 62-year-old Elkhart native still possesses the same charisma and stage presence one would expect from a seasoned politician and longtime county prosecutor who served 4 consecutive terms. Once viewed as a rising star in Indiana politics, Hill was, in 2018, accused by 4 women, including a former Democratic state representative, 2 Democratic legislative staffers, and 1 Republican legislative staffer, of groping or inappropriately touching them during a party at an Indianapolis bar on the final night of the state legislative session. The allegations were investigated by legislative leaders and might not have seen the light of day if not for a confidential memo from a law firm that was leaked to the Indianapolis Star 4 months after the night of the party. From the number 1 source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Get ready, Indianapolis. IBJ Media, Inside Indiana Business, and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation invite you to the annual Engage Central Indiana event. It's presented by CareSource, Indiana University, and Old National Bank. Wednesday, December 6th at the JW Marriott. We'll be diving into talent, education, and other issues shaping the Central Indiana economy. More at ibj.com/engage.
Members of the Sellersburg-based Silver Creek Water Corporation have voted to approve Indiana American Water's acquisition of the member-owned water utility. With 74% of the membership voting in favor, Silver Creek's 8,000 water customers will now be absorbed into Indiana American's 1.4 million. The Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission now must approve the acquisition now that they have entered a signed agreement. More Hoosier parents are opting to send their kids to charter schools, and new research insists that moving away from traditional public schools increases students' likelihood to achieve academically and after graduation. A study released last week from the University of Arkansas dives into the cost-effectiveness and return on investment of charter school attendance in Indianapolis and 8 other U.S. communities. Researchers said their findings show that charter schools yield more learning and more predicted lifetime earnings per education dollar spent. They emphasized, too, that charter schools tend to serve a higher percentage of students in poverty than traditional public schools. Across the 9 areas studied, the latest research found that charter schools on average produce higher student achievement gains per $1,000 funded than traditional schools. The study comes on the heels of 2 other reports from Indiana University, one confirming that Hoosier students are increasingly leaving traditional public schools for other options, and another that shows that nearly half of all students who left public school corporations in fall 2022 transferred to a different public school option, like a charter school. Local leaders cut the ribbon on a new outdoor classroom in Clarksville's Falls of the Ohio State Park. It will be an outdoor learning space to connect students and other visitors to the park's landscape and history. The Falls of the Ohio Foundation built the space with financial help from the Duke Energy Foundation, Irving Materials Incorporated, and other benefactors. Cummins Incorporated has been churning out engines for more than 100 years, fueling the Columbus area economy and in the automotive industry, everything from pickups to heavy-duty trucks to big earth-moving and mining machines, to school buses and delivery trucks. The next chapter of innovation for the manufacturer is emerging with Accelera by Cummins, which was announced as the new brand for the company's zero-emissions business unit earlier this year. Hydrogen is seen as the rising star of Cummins' zero-emissions portfolio. The company recently unveiled the first hydrogen-powered passenger train in North America, a partnership with a French company powered by hydrogen fuel cells made in Canada. Sports journalist Bill Benner is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Kate Sharon for Inside Indiana Business, Radio on Demand.